up, YouTube and followers? Today we're out here on Torch Lake, Upper Michigan, Copper Country. So we're going to go take a visit to Quincy Dredge number 2, which was known as the Calumet and Hecla Dredge number 1, but Quincy Dredge number 2, which was given that name back in 1951. It was actually, this whole thing was built in 1914. And we're going to go paddle out there. It was unceremoniously parked and abandoned back in 1967 when the copper mines closed up. And in a big storm in 1967, it sank into the lake, and it's been sitting there, abandoned, neglected, and disused. So it's now actually a historic site. So it's not just junk, it's actually a historic site. So anyway, getting out there could be a little bit of a challenge. The only way to get there is to really see it, is to paddle out there in a kayak. You're going to get all wet out here and sloppy. You're going to get wet for sure, so you don't want to wear your nice clothes. And this water is toxic. It's toxic wasteland. It's an environmental disaster. The lake is full of copper stamp sand, which is toxic, and taconite, which is toxic too. So there's no fish living here. It's essentially a dead lake. You don't want to get get this water in your nice clothing. So here we are approaching the back of the rig. So rig number 1 is actually sunken into the lake a little bit north of here, marked by a buoy, and if you go out to the buoy you can see the rig just under the water line. It's about 7 feet under the water line, beneath the water line. So anyway, this dredge is actually a boat, and it was constructed constructed to originally work in Lake Linden, and the Quincy mine bought it, and then they moved it down to Torch Lake. We're using it to suck sand out of the lake, discarded sand from the lake, bring it on shore, stamp it some more, crush it up, pull out more copper, and then dump the new sand back in. So they figured they'd take the sand and crush it down finer and pull more copper out. And so that was great until it was no longer profitable. So then this whole thing was unceremoniously parked and abandoned on the side of the lake here, on the side of Highway 26. So the best way to see it is to see it from the lake. You can see it from the highway, although you're going to have to walk through a lot of marshland to get out there. So this is probably the best way. So here we are approaching. This is the smokestack. This rig has its own motor, its own engine room. Beneath this shed room here, there's an engine room leading to the stack. And over here on the shore, you can see the stamping plant. This is the one of the stamping plants in the smokestack. And there's a dock facility just to the right of this. Didn't really show you that, but you can see the pilings over here. So this is stamping, and it's a big tourist spot. A lot of tourists come out here to see it. And here we are back to the rig. So dredge number 2 is basically a large box-like ship or vessel with a hull, floating hull, and a motor, an engine room, complete ship. It's got a crane on the front, and it's got a nozzle attached to the crane, which the nozzle can reach down. It's a big steel nozzle, by the way. It can reach down into the lake about 150 feet. It's got some boxes for holding the sand on board, and it's mostly made out of steel with some wood cladding on the side and a steel roof on it. And the wood is just kind of hanging there, so you want to be really careful if you go visit. And you can see some of the sand on the shore there. Stamp sand is supposedly very toxic. Here's the front of the rig. You got the nozzle and the crane, some of the rigging from the crane right here. And the crane, most of this rig is devoted to crane. So the inside of the rig, you've got the back of the crane, and you've got the controls for the crane. And there's the deck where the crew would walk on to run the crane. You got the pilot house up there. That's the crane. So we're going to go in. Best way to go in is to find a opening, and you just paddle your way in, and you want to watch the water beneath you to make sure your boat isn't going to hit any of the jagged metal pieces sticking up, because you can puncture your boat on the middle. So you go in there, grab onto the handrails, and just paddle your way in like that. And you can see there's a lot of tagging and graffiti, and even the graffiti is covered in water, so this rig has been sinking slowly over time. And part of it's either that, I think the lake is rising, I think the rig is sinking slowly. So anyway, when you go in, you want to go in on a nice calm day, and it's not recommended that you go inside. It's a little dangerous inside. There's a lot of wood hanging down. Here's some of the boxes for holding sand right here. There's one box for holding sand, and you've got a deck here on there. Recommended not to go onto the decks. So there's a lot of wood hanging down. This is the back of the crane, by the way. We're looking up at the back of the crane here. There's a stairway back there. And so on this part here is where the crew would control the crane. And so here we are, just paddling around. Best thing to do is watch what you're doing in here. Don't run into any metal, or you'll sink your boat, and then you'll be swimming back in this toxic water. So this whole lake is an environmental disaster. You don't want to be swimming in it or getting wet. So just go back out the way you came in. We'll show you some more around the other side. So you don't want to go out that opening because it's shallow there. So you just go out. You can see the wood is just hanging there. So there was a time when copper was actually worth something, and well, it is worth something now, but there was a time when there was a lot more copper in the ground in Upper Michigan, and it was all pretty much mined out completely, and then the price of copper fell, and that's what really brought this place down. And so there's a lot of these kind of copper processing, mining, and stamping facilities out here in the Upper Peninsula, and they're mostly all abandoned. It's unfortunate and sad that now copper is at all-time highs, and they can't revive the copper industry. So here we are looking at the back of the rig. This is where the engine room is, deep down below us. Can't even see it, but it's way down there. And that's the stamping plant again. So this is a pretty calm lake. There's the stamping plant right there. So you could park your car there and go visit the stamping plant. It's all abandoned. It's a great photo op. You can take a lot of good pictures in there. And so that's that.